This is getting out of hand. I think I can safely say I've gone past the point of wondering whether or not I'm insane, because at this point, I think there's more to this than meets the eye. It started with headaches, and now my eye frequently bleeds. But what results of all this is what frightens me most. I know I'm not alone in here. Someone or something else is inside here with me, and it's either crying out for help, or it's trying to lure me into the darkness. But first things first, I've got some unfinished business to take care of. It's October 31st, 2016, and tonight, we fight fear itself. And so, continuing our show's coverage of late 90s internet with Dee Snider's Strangeland, naturally it's time we continue to jump into the early 2000s, where somebody apparently thought it was a good idea to have a Halloween movie centered around an internet horror show. With production beginning in 2001, Miramax had initially wanted slasher icon Michael Myers to be taken out of the movie, only to be refused by Halloween producer Busta Rhymes, suggesting that would be a terrible idea. Which, as we all know from the last time a Halloween movie didn't have Michael Myers in it, it left the audience screaming, As such, the movie was delayed to reshoots in late 2001, with the title of the movie changing from Halloween The Homecoming to Halloween Resurrection. With the changes being made, and keeping in mind that it is a sequel to Halloween H2O, Just Add Water, this also included a contractual 30-second cameo from Laurie Strode actress Jamie Lee Curtis, who apparently held such a big interest in the movie that her role was extended to the entire opening sequence of the movie. One last thing to note is that in the days before Rob Zombie had rebooted the franchise, there were apparently going to be sequels intended to follow on from the plot of Resurrection, which was shut down with the death of Mustafa Akkad. And so, on July 12, 2002, Halloween Resurrection was released to scathing reviews, to the point where some actually claimed that Jason X was positively Shakespearean by comparison. And need I remind you that Jason X is the one with Jason Voorhees in space. So I figured that since tonight is Halloween night, and, well, really, what better night than now to review a Halloween movie, let's see if we can resurrect any shred of dignity that this movie might have had in the final installment in the original Halloween series. For those of you who don't know how I review movies, I'm kicking off with the technical aspects first before diving into the plot. As far as cinematography is concerned, the movie is fine for the most part, although going in with the theme of the internet-based reality show, there are occasional switches to vision cameras which are, well, passable. They're few and far between, so it's really nothing to complain about if you're worried about the movie going all Blair Witch Project on us. As for the soundtrack, it's mostly generic by-the-numbers horror score with a few hip-hop license tracks thrown in there. Although, that being said, there are a few select tracks that I do enjoy upon listening to the soundtrack on its own, and it also has probably one of my favourite renditions of the Halloween theme, so that's at least one positive I can give for the technical aspects. So with all that out of the way, let's take a look at the final installment in the original Halloween series, and see if it'll make for something good to watch tonight. So the plot kicks off with Laurie Strode in a mental hospital set 3 years after the events of Halloween H2O, Just Add Water, where she stopped letting Michael Myers get ahead of himself. Anyway, the orderlies of the hospital retcon the ending of Halloween H2O by saying that Michael Myers managed to escape death by crushing a medic's throat, and then putting the William Shatner mask on him, thus explaining Laurie's current situation. It's a lazy explanation, but being the Friday the 13th fan that I am, I can say that I've heard sillier reasons to bring characters back from the dead. Quite literally in Friday the 13th's case.
She hasn't said a word in years. Extreme dissociative disorder.
Whoa, dude, hold the fucking phone on those pills! Yeah, I'm pretty sure if any orderly was caught feeding their patients pills like they were candy, their ass would be fired right on the spot. Anyway, Force Feed McPillpopper here explains that Laurie was oftentimes found on the roof, which to them might imply suicidal thoughts, but as Laurie reveals later on, it's actually because she was on the lookout for Michael Myers. And since tonight is Halloween, I think you can guess who shows up for a reunion. But who gives a fuck about the tension of Michael Myers' presence? Clearly what the audience wanted to see was a night guard taking a piss.
Holy shit!
Well, it's nice to see that Corey Taylor isn't the only Slipknot member starring in horror movies.
Sexy bitches are my favorite kind of bitches.
Meanwhile, with Myers sneaking into the facility, the guards wander about the place on the lookout for suspicious activity, with the two splitting up for no other reason than...
I skipped dinner.
Well I certainly know what I'm thirsty for right now. It's a good year. As you'd expect from a typical slasher flick, the guard who goes wandering off dies, and then the dinner dude goes off to investigate, leading him to a washing machine. Oh, wait a second, how the hell didn't he see the body when he came in? I mean, it was right there in front of the washing machine, you know, not to mention the fact that the body was leaking a shitload of blood, so how the hell did he miss that? Anyway, the dinner dude dines his last as Michael slits his throat, and now nothing stands in his way on his hunt for Laurie. Bursting into her room and surprisingly not being stopped or heard by anybody, Michael is seemingly unopposed in his attempts to kill his sister. Unfortunately for Michael, however, Laurie decides to shed some light on the situation. So Laurie runs away, leading Michael up to the roof where she sets up a trap for Michael Myers, which looks absolutely fucking comical. Oh, foiled again, and I would have gotten away with it too if this wasn't the opening kill. So Laurie picks up the knife and decides to finally kill Michael Myers once and for all. Which I'm sure she'll totally succeed in her mission with no complications at all. Damn it, I was so sure she had him this time. Ew, dude, what the hell? Yeah, because that's what audiences wanted to see in a Halloween movie, Laurie and Michael Myers incest. And this is before Rob Zombie took over the reins for the series. Anyway, with Laurie dead, Michael visits the clown and gives him his knife, and the clown, instead of following the path of John Wayne Gacy, now decides to emulate Michael Myers. So is this their attempt to try and go all Friday the 13th Part 5 on us? I don't know. I mean, I can't really see any other explanations as to why Michael would give this dude his knife, so I'd have to wonder whether or not this was going to be followed up in a sequel or spin-off, but ultimately, this scene could be left on the cutting room floor and nothing of value would have been lost. So with all that said and done, Michael Myers goes home. And I'm not even joking about that. Quite literally, later in the movie, Michael Myers' plan is quite literally to go home. Meanwhile, we cut over to our main heroine, Sarah, who we know is going to survive this movie, meeting up with her friend, Dead Meat Number 1 and Dead Meat Number 2, informing them that they're in. What results of this is that the gang are going to take part in an internet horror show set within a dilapidated house.
Are you sure they're not just putting us in some house with hidden cameras in the shower?
Apparently the show is run by a Captain Howdy. Well, that seems legitimate. Dead Meat Number 1 explains to Sarah about the flimsy premise of the show is that the cast take on the roles as investigative reporters, seeking out clues to a famed house of horrors.
Don't do it. That's the house where it all started. He walked its hallways, helped his mother in the kitchen, watched TV in the living room with his dad, played in his sister's bedroom.
What the fuck is up with all the weird shit in this movie? Anyway, Panty Sniffer here decides to recap the events of the first Halloween movie.
He picked up a knife, and he never put it down again.
Look, I hate to reuse stock footage, but I think this bears repeating. What the fuck is up with all the weird shit in this movie? Meanwhile, Sarah uses the computer to send an email to a guy named Deckard, who, if you couldn't already tell, he's a nerd. To put it bluntly, he's pretty much the Otacon of the movie.
Did you know in the old days, knights used to spend their entire lives courting ladies that they would never even touch? They would just, like, you know, send each other sonnets and stuff.
Damn fucking straight, son! Yeah, that's the reason why I'm so alone. So fragile. So... Excuse me. Are you a fan of Sonic the Hedgehog? Yeah! Well then get ready, because Skully the Metalhead has a summer-long event, a Sonic the Hedgehog Marathon.
I can't believe this!
From January to February 2017, Skully will be reviewing all 4 classic Sonic games. Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Sonic CD, and Sonic & Knuckles.
Time to rock and roll!
Stay tuned for the thrills, the action,
Oh yeah, baby.
and adventure.
Sounds like an invitation to party.
4 Sonic games over 2 months.
That's more than enough for the demonstration. So let's get the show on the road!
Skully the Metalhead's Summer of Sonic Marathon. Coming soon, January 2017.
Oh yeah! This is happening!
The hell, am I running ads on this thing now? Anyway, from this point forward, I'm going to be calling Deckard Otacon since, well, that pretty accurately describes his role in the events to come. Shut the fuck up! Arriving at a Halloween party, it's here where we meet the main star of our movie, Busta Rhymes. Because that's what I watch a Halloween movie for, celebrity rappers. And trust me, it's all downhill from here. So Busta Rhymes explains to the group how the Deadmeats are going to be wandering around inside the hallways of the decrepit Myers house in the styling of an internet reality show. Somehow this movie feels both relevant, yet dated at the exact same time. And that includes not only cast interviews by the group of Deadmeats, but also an appearance by Tyra Banks of all people.
I think it has something to do with upbringing.
So this is what happened before the key was freed from the Matrix. Again, as Pa Skully had already mentioned, what the fuck is up with all the weird shit in this movie? Couldn't have put it better myself. Oh wait, because I did. Later on, we cut to Busta Rhymes watching a kung fu movie which is there for some reason.
Oh, shit!
I just realized they were filming the movie. Seriously, this scene could have been left on the cutting room floor and nothing of value would have been lost. Interrupting Busta's kung fu theater is Sarah, who informs him that she's dropping out of the show only to be convinced to stay by the wise words of Busta Rhymes.
It's okay to be scared, you know. Being scared is good. Fear is good. Fear motivates. Fear gives you the feeling of being alive.
Whoa.
Damn, you good. Shit you come up with off the top of your head, boy. Why don't you just pat yourself on the back?
What is up with all the weird-ass writing in this movie? Look, I'm not usually this critical of a horror movie, but this just completely ruins any attempt at an atmosphere, and honestly, it feels downright comical. I mean, really, do any of these scenes look like something you'd associate with a Halloween movie? I'd just like to remind you all that this is meant to be a horror movie. Meanwhile, with Sarah, we see her indulge in a new outfit.
Sexy girl.
Oh my god, that outfit is so styling! You go, girl!
Holy fuck, either I have issues or this movie is really starting to get to me.
What? Did you see the boogeyman or something?
No, we are not crossing that fucking boogeyman. Anyway, cutting back to Otacon here, we're then introduced to the thrilling drama of Otacon not going to Mickey Stern's party.
Sorry, man, I guess I forgot it.
Forgot? Do you have any idea what it means for 2 freshmen to get invited? It's like never happened before.
Oh no, mate! Not Mickey Stern's party!
Okay, that's besides the point, Miles Barton. You can either sit here in your little dream fantasy world, or you can come with me to this party and learn to walk like a man.
Doing something that I actually enjoy, or being forced to go to a party with whiny bitch boy? Choices. You know what, fuck it, I'm playing Jackie Chan's Stuntmaster.
Look out!
On the day of filming, we see the Myers household retrofitted with a camera setup and also a control station with Tyra Banks at the helm. Halloween Resurrection! Fear, terror, and... dancing? What the fuck is up with all the weird shit in this movie? Once again, I will reiterate, this scene could have been left on the cutting room floor and nothing of value would have been lost. Anyway, about half an hour in, we finally get another appearance by Michael Myers. What? First of all, what? Second of all, why the hell did he just stand there like an idiot? And thirdly, who the hell makes tripods with blades at the end of them? Again, I mean, for those of you who are new to my reviews, I'm not usually the kind of guy who nitpicks on horror movies, but my stance on this scene remains the same. What? And of course, all this happens while Tyra Banks is too busy whipping up a delicious drink and conveniently looking away from the camera while Michael drags away the body.
Look at you, Charlie. It's a nice angle, boy.
It's funny because he's dead. Meanwhile, the group arrives at the Myers house with discussions of product placement abound.
I mean, while we're going around the house discovering the secrets of Michael Myers, we could be drinking Pepsi.
Uh-oh, I think you just said the magic word. Party hard. Of course, with the knowledge that these people are practically invading his house, Michael Myers is of course not too happy with this. So naturally, the kids enter the house and as Buster puts it,
let the dangertainment begin up!
Upon exploring the house, the gang finds that things aren't quite as real as they thought.
You gonna taste a 40-year-old fennel?
Oh, don't. It's gotta be rotten.
That's strange.
What?
It smells fresh.
So you mean that a stage reality show isn't actually real? No.
You know, Donna, you got great legs. What time do they open?
Yeah, I'm practicing my Jack Nicholson impression. Is it working?
So we have more wandering around, more fake jump scares and general investigations, which do little to garner any fear since A, we're already given the hint that some of this stuff is fake, and B, the scenes where there is any tension at all trying to be built up, it's usually often offset with cutaways like this. Phew, that was close. It's a good thing that they don't have any tension in a horror movie! Later that Halloween night, we see Otacon patching into the stream while he's at the party, and here's supposed to be where a majority of the movie takes place. And as par for the course, we got our dose of slasher nudity! Oh yeah.
You cracked me up.
Damn it. Well, despite the viewer not being able to get their money's worth, this guy certainly is.
Come here, lover boy.
What are you doing, you big perv?
Says the guy who burst into a room figuring that the office would be a perfect place to fuck. Anyway, finally something interesting happens as dead meat number 1 disappears.
Jen?
If there's one thing to say about this movie, it's repetitive. I mean, we're at the halfway point of the movie, where shit's supposed to be going down, and there's only been 2 deaths throughout the entirety of this thing. One of Laurie, and the other one that died of a sharp mood whiplash. Meanwhile, we're then treated to Busta Rhymes and Tyra Banks drinking wine and reveling in the success of their new reality show. You know what, for all its faults, at least the prologue of the movie was at least vaguely interesting. Could we please go back to that? Seriously, I don't think people watch a Halloween movie to see Busta Rhymes acting like a complete goofball, and neither do they watch it for painful comic relief. I mean, seriously. Save me, Michael Myers. Save me from this boring movie. And you want to know what the funny thing is? As far as I'm concerned, Michael Myers isn't even the bad guy here. I mean, really, these kids, Busta Rhymes and Tyra Banks invade his house, they install cameras all over the place and fuck around with this stuff. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'd probably go on a killing spree too if these fuckers were roaming around my house without my consent. So suffice it to say, viewers, our hero has finally arrived. But it seems that we might be seeing double in this case.
I ain't paying you to be Michael Myers. I'm playing Michael Myers. Go ahead, scoot, skedaddle. Get the fuck out of Dodge.
And for whatever reason, Michael Myers just decides to listen to Busta Rhymes' orders. Meanwhile, with Dead Meat number 4, she finds out that the basement of the Myers house apparently leads into the sewer where Michael Myers has been living all this time, as demonstrated by a picture of Laurie Strode from the 70s being by his bedside. Also, that he apparently eats rats for dinner. Again, I'd just like to remind you that this is before Rob Zombie took over the Halloween franchise. Anyway, our local hero, Michael Myers, shows up and thankfully gives this movie some more purpose by killing off Dead Meat number 4. But we can't have any kind of tension in a horror movie, so instead I think it's appropriate that we cut to Dead Meats 1 and 2 smoking weed.
We're wearing cameras.
Why didn't you just cut to the scene where Sarah was sitting in a room alone with the ambience playing up? Would have been far more fitting than the random stoners laughing at themselves. Look, I've said it once and I'll say it again. This scene could have been left on the cutting room floor and nothing of value would have been lost. Oh no, I really think it's the real Michael. Yeah, to cut a long story short, it's Busta Rhymes.
Okay, so none of this shit is real, right? Like the furniture, the photos, all the fucked up toys.
It's all fake. We've been set up. You knew you didn't have a show anyone would watch, so you set us all up at our fucking expense, huh?
So you mean that a reality show set up by the studio was actually fake? Why the hell is this such a surprising revelation to you? Anyway, Busta Rhymes reveals that he's in it for the money and is ultimately giving the public what it wants. Eerily relevant social commentary, or a flimsy means of explaining why Busta Rhymes isn't going to die in this movie, given that he has such a big focus here. Anyway, now that Rhymes has outright told his character's angle and all this, it's time for the whole I don't believe you act, when they're in the presence of the real Michael Myers.
How'd you do that?
Some digital effects.
No, it isn't.
Well, to be fair, she seems so plastic that I really couldn't tell the difference. Thank you and good night. But given who the focus has been on all this time, I think it's about time we say goodbye to Dead Meat number 3 and Dead Meat number 1. Now I know it might have looked like he was crushing his head, but I'd like to think that Michael Myers had penance-stared him to watch this entire movie, and then he died with all these pointless scenes being burned into his brain. Although to give Dead Meat number 2 some credit, he's at least inventive with some of his attacks. I mean, I can't say I ever would have thought about using pepper to stun Michael Myers in the heat of battle. But unfortunately, Dead Meat number 2's tactics are really nothing more than a stab in the dark. And you know what, for all of Halloween Resurrection's faults, I honestly think that scenes like this could have had something interesting done with them. While the gimmick of an internet-based reality show sounds fucking stupid on paper, I think if it was intended to be executed as a subtle satire of our modern culture's enjoyment of violence under the pretense of a fictional show, only for it to be revealed that it was actually happening with the real Michael Myers killing people, I think this movie could work. I mean, sure, it would take some doing and some inventive writing to manipulate events so that both the viewer and the characters are unaware of whether or not what they're seeing is actually real or fake, but with the right execution, I think Halloween Resurrection could have turned from what was once a cluttered mess into the most mind-bending horror flick of the early 2000s, which would have been amazing. And this is it. This is exactly why I review things in the first place, because I like seeing potential and bad ideas, and furthermore, I enjoy seeing how they screw up the concept so bad that it can act as an example of how, in the right hands, you can turn what was once a bad idea into a great one with a wide amount of resourcefulness and skill to pull it off. But sadly, we must return to the movie that failed. With Sarah out of options and being the last survivor of the group, she contacts Otacon for help by helping her find her way out using the camera system to locate Michael, and also locate an exit for her to escape. And you know what, to give the last 20 minutes of the movie credit, it at least adequately builds up tension knowing that Michael Myers is about to kill the main character by means of raised stakes. But also another note, being the slack-jawed reactions of the audience, which, again, I really feel could have played into the whole idea of the social commentary about the masses' belief into the lie that is reality television. With Michael lurking around the halls, it's revealed that Busta Rhymes and Sarah are the only ones left alive, and as such, they team up and attempt to escape from the Myers house. Unfortunately for the two, Michael Myers catches up with them, and now it's time for the final battle. Michael Myers versus Busta Rhymes. Somebody had to write that.
So you want to be on Dangertainment? Let's see what you got.
Okay, I am convinced that this was somebody's Busta Rhymes fanfiction because the fact that he's quite literally fighting off Michael Myers using Kung Fu feels outright fucking ludicrous. Anyway, while Busta Rhymes tries to use Kung Fu, Sarah goes for a piggyback ride on Michael Myers, and what results of this is that Michael decides to hang around. Oh man, I'm so bad at this. So I guess this means that Busta Rhymes and Sarah are going to be okay. And so, with Busta Rhymes taken out, Sarah runs away and we find the bodies of the rest of the cast, and they eventually battle their way into the camera station where Tyra Banks apparently died off screen, and Sarah decides to go all Texas Chainsaw on Michael.
Oh shit.
Okay, that was kind of funny. And because she slashed at the wires, the Myers house is set ablaze and our heroine is pinned down by debris, with Michael arising to perform the killing blow. But by the power of contrivance...
Trick or treat, motherfucker!
Yes, you saw it here, viewers. Michael Myers' ultimate enemy isn't Dr. Loomis, it isn't Laurie Strode, but instead it's Busta Rhymes. Can you see why people hate this movie? And to further drive the point home, this is how Michael Myers dies. Hey man, I'd make that sound too if I was electrocuted in my testicles. And so, Busta Rhymes and Sarah escape from the Myers household, with Michael, much like the rest of his franchise by this point, burning down in flames, with his body being taken to the morgue, where I can only presume that Rob Zombie would eventually steal it. And on that note, what are my final thoughts on Halloween Resurrection? Well, to start things off, I can begin with a resounding clip of, what the fuck is up with all the weird shit in this movie? I'm serious, from the casting of Busta Rhymes and Tyra Banks having roles which completely take away any tension from Michael Myers, the scenes are complete lunacy combined with generic slasher tropes, and not to mention the fact that half of these scenes could have been left on the cutting room floor and nothing of value would have been lost. All in all, Halloween Resurrection doesn't work not only as a Halloween movie, but also as a horror movie in how it always undermines the scenes in which it tries to create tension, and in the few scenes where there actually is tension, it's only found at the beginning and the end of the movie, but even then, it really is just by the numbers horror direction at best. The premise, as I mentioned earlier, could have had the potential to blur the line between reality and constructed reality, given the format of the internet horror show, but Halloween Resurrection doesn't acknowledge that potential, and as such, it loses the one thing that I think could have saved the movie. In terms of recommendations, the only one I can make is if you find the goofy-ass comedy of this movie funny, because if not, Halloween Resurrection is just a dull horror movie outside of the prologue with Laurie and the last 20 minutes of the movie. So on that note, I am Skully, keep it new metal, and I think I'm about done reviewing horror movies. I think it's about time I got back to doing games again. Catch you later.